I woke up in a hallway. No bed, no light through windows. Just this corridor, long, humming, and suffocating. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, flickering like they were trying to remember how to stay lit. The carpet beneath my feet was damp and green, the kind of color that should only exist in old lobbies or abandoned airports. I was barefoot, no phone, no wallet. I didn't even know my name. The walls sweated. That was the first thing that made me realize I wasn't dreaming. A sticky, cold sheen coated every surface, like someone had tried to paint over a memory and failed. I touched it. It clung to my fingers. The hallway stretched on, endless but not straight. It curled, like it was coiling around something unseen. Every 10 feet or so, there was a door. No numbers, no labels, all identical, plain, wooden, shut tight. Some had little scratches near the bottom, like something had clawed to get in or out. I turned the first handle I saw. It didn't budge. Second, locked by the third. I stopped trying. There were no windows, no ceiling fans, no sound besides the low, unnatural hum that vibrated through the walls, the kind of sound you feel in your teeth. I don't know how long I walked. The hallway repeated, the same scuffs in the carpet, the same crooked corner, the same hum growing softer and louder like it was breathing. Then came the orange door, not painted, glowing. It pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. The knob was bronze, too large, and wet to the touch. I stood there just looking at it. My reflection in the metal knob was stretched, mouth too wide. I didn't like how long it took to blink. I turned away. The hallway was gone. Just the door behind me now, and the voice. "Time for your appointment, Mr. Reeves." It came from nowhere. Not a speaker, not a person. It was like the walls whispered it directly into my ear. My knees went weak. "I think you've got the wrong guy." I managed, but my mouth felt like it didn't belong to me. I hadn't remembered speaking in hours or days. The door opened slowly. Inside, an orange room. Orange walls, padded like an asylum but soft to breathing. Almost the floor was covered in sand. Not beach sand. Glittering, artificial, like ground glass from a snow globe. In the center of the room sat a gray chair, tilted back, with a headrest wrapped in plastic. Dental, torture, both. In front of the chair floated a television. Not mounted. Floating it showed static, but not white noise. There were shapes in the flicker, shadows pacing behind the snow, faces pressing too close to the glass. I stepped inside, and the door clicked shut behind me. Locked again. The chair squeaked. I hadn't touched it. Still, I looked down and found myself seated, strapped in, leather cuffs tight around my arms and legs. An IV pierced the back of my hand, pumping thick orange liquid into my veins. It stung, burned, then faded. I tried to scream. The TV came to life. It showed the hallway, the same one, camera gliding forward, past doors, around corners, until it reached the orange room. Only now it was filled with people. Hundreds, crammed shoulder to shoulder, all seated, all staring forward. Their eyes were wrong, too wide. Their mouths hung open like they were mid-sentence but forgot the words. Some had no mouths at all, just skin, stitched tight. One woman had dozens of fingers. They didn't move, except their eyes. They were watching me. The screen panned, slowly, until it reached the last chair, and in that chair was me, crying, muttering something I couldn't hear. And then the voice came again. Not from the ceiling, not from the room, from the IV line. It always ends in the orange room. Part 2, I couldn't answer. My throat had turned to glass. That question, you remember what you did, kept echoing, not in my ears, but behind my eyes. Each syllable slammed like a heartbeat against the back of my skull. The fluid in my veins moved slower now, like syrup cooling inside me. I couldn't feel my fingers, couldn't feel where the straps ended and I began. The television cut to static again, then black. And when the lights returned, I wasn't in the chair anymore. I was standing back in the hallway. Same flickering lights, same spongy green carpet. But now, the silence wasn't just mechanical. It felt alive, like something had paused its breathing, waiting for me to make a sound. The doors were open now, all of them, each one cracked just wide enough to tempt me, just enough to say, "Look inside, remember something." I approached the first on the left and peeked through. Inside was a bathroom. At first glance, nothing unusual. Pale tile, fogged mirror, toothpaste crusting on the sink. But the longer I stared, the more things moved. Very slightly, the toothbrush swiveled toward the drain. The shower curtain tightened as though pulled by invisible hands. The fog on the mirror spelled nothing at all, just empty breath. And then I saw it, in the reflection. Not me, a version of me, standing in the room behind me. But Rome blurred, smiling too wide, too soon. The kind of smile people give in dreams, right before the screaming starts. I turned nothing there. The hallway behind me was empty, but the mirror's reflection lingered a second too long before fading. I moved on, The second door opened to a kitchen, one I recognized in a way that made my stomach twist. 4 mica counters, a dying potted plant, a fridge humming like it was keeping something alive inside. On the table, 2 plates, one empty, one half-eaten, forks crossed, deliberately. A faint warmth still clung to the air, like someone had just left, or was still watching. There were photographs on the fridge, my face in all of them, with people I didn't know, smiling like we did this every weekend, except every photo had the same date in the corner, stamped in red, November 14th, 1998. It was tomorrow. The door creaked as I stepped back. Down the hall, another voice. This one wasn't a whisper, it was crying. Soft, repetitive sobs coming from the 9th door on the right, just open enough to see an edge of movement. A shadow rocking back and forth, curled into itself. I should have kept walking. I didn't. The second I crossed the threshold, the sobbing stopped. The room was empty. No furniture, no figure, just cracked wallpaper and a large stain in the center of the floor, shaped like someone lying down, face up, arms out. Still visible was a slight smear where fingers had dragged backward, as if trying to crawl out. There were claw marks on the door. On the inside I ran, didn't think, didn't breathe. Just ran, bare feet slapping the carpet, past the other rooms, all of them now opening wider as I passed, like doors leaning forward to watch. Some of them had whispers behind them, some giggled, and then, around the final bend, there it was again. The orange door, still glowing, still wrong. But now, something stood in front of it. A figure, tall, dressed like me. That's the only word for it. Hollow like it had been filled with light and drained too quickly. Its skin had seams. Its mouth didn't open, it just peeled. The eyes weren't eyes at all, but tunnels, dark and endless, like they were made to swallow faces. And yet, it smiled, like it had missed me. "Time for your treatment, Mr. Reeves," it said. Only its mouth didn't move. The voice came from behind me. The hallway was filled, lining the corridor. Standing in every open doorway were more versions of me. Dozens, each slightly off, each wearing the same face with a different expression. Grief, joy, rage, hunger. Some were missing eyes. One was headless, another dragged its legs like a broken puppet. They watched me with quiet understanding, and then they all spoke in perfect unison. "It always ends in the orange room. It always ends in the orange room." Part 3. I didn't choose to enter the orange room. I didn't walk. I didn't lift my feet. I simply blinked and I was inside again. The door was gone. The figure outside, gone the hallway. A memory now, like a dream you try to hold on to but slips through your teeth. I stood in the center of the room. No chair at this time. No television. Just for walls. Same orange foam, but closer now. Flexing in and out, as if they were lungs. The light didn't come from above, it came from the walls themselves. That soft, warm hospital glow meant to calm you before the panic sets in. And I realized, slowly, that I wasn't alone. Something was behind me. Breathing, I turned, but there was no shape, just heat. Like something tall and slow-moving had just stepped out of the corner of your vision. Something that didn't cast shadows because it wasn't separate from the room. A single phrase echoed in my skull, like it had been planted there long before I woke up. "You left it open." I had no idea what it meant. The floor shivered beneath me, and I noticed the sand again. That shimmering, artificial grit was swirling slowly in a spiral around my feet, like water circling a drain, like it had somewhere it needed to go. And then I heard my own voice, from nowhere, from everywhere. "You said you'd lock it." That voice, mine, wasn't panicked, it wasn't frightened, it was disappointed, like a father speaking to a child who had done something unforgivable. I backed away, but there were no walls anymore, just orange in every direction. Endless, a color that shouldn't stretch forever, but somehow did. My footprints in the sand disappeared as fast as I made them, swallowed whole like I was never here at all. And then something rose from the floor. Not a person, not a thing, a shape. At first it looked like a bed, a hospital gurney, straps loose, wheels broken. The frame was stained with rust and something darker. It had my name etched into the side, Reeves carved deep, like someone had done it with their fingernails. It beckoned. I felt my legs move before I chose to lie down, the voice said. It wasn't a command. It was inevitability, like gravity or drowning. I resisted, but the room didn't like that. The walls pulsed faster now. With each breath, they exhaled heat. The ceiling, if there was one, I began to melt. Droplets of orange light fell onto my skin, and with each drop, I remembered something that didn't belong to me. A woman screaming in the dark, the smell of burning paper, a locked door at the end of a staircase, and something knocking from the inside. A mirror that wouldn't stop reflecting a man I didn't know. Even when I wasn't standing in front of it, memories that didn't line up, but they hurt like they were mine. And then the gurney spoke, not with words, with sound. The metal groaned, low and mechanical, and from within it, a new form began to emerge. It was me, but not whole. This version of me was dripping, hollow in places. The eyes were gone. scooped clean, and in their place, two black marbles spun slowly, like orbits trying to align. It smiled with someone else's teeth, and it climbed off the table, walking toward me on feet that didn't touch the ground. "Time's up, Mr. Reeves," it said. The walls trembled, the floor opened beneath me, and I fell. Not far, not fast. Just enough to land in another hallway, but this one was upside down. The lights buzzed beneath my feet. The carpet hung above me like moss on a cave ceiling. Gravity pulled wrong. Every breath hurt. Doors lined the sides again, but this time they were all mirrors. Tall, warped mirrors, each showing a version of me doing something terrible, pushing someone, hiding something, running from blood, and each reflection whispered in sync. "You remember now. It always ends in the orange room." Part 4, I walked to the mirror hallway with my jaw clenched so tightly I thought my teeth might splinter. Each reflection was a version of me I didn't want to know, didn't want to see, but couldn't stop watching. The first mirror showed me at a table, across from a child whose face was smudged like a blurred photograph. I was shouting. The child was shrinking into the seat. My reflection slammed a fist on the table, and the glass cracked from the force. The second mirror was worse. It showed me burying something in the woods. A bag heavy, the ground was frozen, and I was using a tire iron to hack through the frost. My reflection looked over its shoulder, and for a moment made direct eye contact with me. I looked away. Every step took effort. The hallway groaned, no longer upside down, but tilted just enough to make walking feel unnatural, like moving through water. And the mirrors kept coming, hundreds of them, all whispering, not just in my voice, but dozens of voices using my mouth. "You left her. You forgot the door. You knew what would happen." The hallway narrowed as I walked, squeezing tighter, until I had to turn sideways to pass through. The mirrors were only inches from my face now. I could see the pores in their versions of me. Some of them wept, others smiled, but the worst ones, they stared blankly, as if waiting for me to catch up. I reached the final mirror and stopped. This one didn't reflect anything, just a thick wall of static, like a television left on in an empty room. I touched it and was pulled through. No weight, just gone, as if the mirror had swallowed me like water. I landed on all fours. Tile, bright, sterile lights, cold white walls, the smell of bleach and metal. It was a hospital, or at least something trying to look like one. Hallways extended in every direction. 4 bags hung from hooks without tubes. Curtains billowed with no breeze. Monitors beeped in slow, deliberate patterns, like breathing machines in sync with each other. I heard a voice, a woman's, soft, hoarse. "Close, is it you this time?" she asked. I turned. She sat at the end of the hallway, in a wheelchair, wrapped in blankets, though I could see she had no legs beneath them. Her face was familiar, but distant, like something remembered from a dream. Her eyes were black, not cruel, just deep, like she'd seen too much. "Do I know you?" I asked. "You did," she said. "You promised you'd come back. You said you'd close it." "Close what?" She smiled with her mouth, but not her eyes. "The orange door." She reached into her lap and lifted something, a key. Not large, not glowing, just a small brass key with a tag hanging from it. The tag said home. "You left it open," she said again, and her hand began to shake. He got out, and now the rooms don't remember where they go. I took a step forward, she was gone. Wheelchair empty, blankets folded, the key gone. But something was in my pocket. I reached it. The key. Warm, familiar, and I remembered. Not everything, but one moment, a basement, a door, me, locking it, while something pounded from the other side. I was crying, saying, "Sorry." Over and over, "I'll come back." I had said, and I hadn't. I dropped the key. It hit the floor with a metallic thud that echoed like thunder. Behind me, a door opened. A familiar pulse of orange light spilled out, and then I understood. This wasn't punishment. This was the loop. The rooms, the mirrors, the voices, me, they were all part of the same structure, a house built not from walls, but from memory and guilt. I hadn't been trapped, I had been returning, over and over, each time forgetting, so I could remember all over again, because that was the payment. And now the door had opened again, time for the next cycle. And this time I'd leave it open again, because I always do. It always ends in the orange room. Part 5, the orange door didn't wait for me. It widened, spilling that awful glow across the hallway tiles like a bloodstain that pulled. I stood at its threshold, the key still warm in my pocket, my hand trembling as I reached for the handle. But there was no handle, not anymore. Just the door itself, yawning like a mouth. The moment my fingers touched the frame, it pulled me in. Not like I walked, but like I was taken. Dragged silently, feet off the floor, through a tunnel of orange light that pulsed with a heartbeat I could feel in my gums. The door snapped shut behind me. Now I was in the room again, but this time it had changed. No chair, no scent, no walls, just space. An endless expanse of pulsing orange light, layered in fog, where figures drifted like jellyfish through amber syrup. Some had faces, some had mine, others were just silhouettes, flickering in and out of form. Human shadows caught mid-motion, stuck in loops of agony. One was crawling on all fours, its mouth opened and closed, biting through its own fingers like it was trying to chew out a memory. I couldn't scream. The air here didn't carry sound. It carried weight. And then came the voice again, this time from beneath my feet, or wherever down was in this place. You are the architect, Mr. Reeves. The voice didn't accuse, it confirmed. And suddenly, images poured through the orange haze like a stuttering reel of film. A real room, the original orange room, sealed in concrete under an old house. One I'd locked myself. Long ago, a child's scream, buried by insulation and earth. A ritual I never understood, only performed. Not to summon, but to contain. You let it out, the voice said. And the light sharpened, the fog pulled back, and I saw it. It had no face. It wore mine. But before I ever looked the way I do now, younger, fresher, the version of me that believed he could fix things by forgetting them, it stepped forward. No footsteps, just closer, and when it moved, the other shadows moved with it, like organs within a larger thing. One pulsed, like a heart, another twitched like a dying nerve. The creature, or thing, or me, extended a hand, palm up, inviting. You built the room to hold me, it said. You are the room. The realization hit like a second heartbeat exploding in my chest. This wasn't a place, it was a loop of memory, a recursive cage built from guilt. The orange room didn't exist somewhere. It existed inside me, and every time I forgot, it broke free a little more. The thing with my face tilted its head. It's almost time, it said. Then I saw the chair again, rising up like a corpse surfacing from black water. The straps were loose now, but I knew what they meant. This wasn't a prison anymore. It was a stage. I had been reenacting the same moment for years, or longer. A memory played on loop, like a guilty note held too long on the piano. It was always me, sitting, watching, forgetting, and it always ended here, in the orange room. I took a breath that tasted like copper, and I sat, not because I wanted to, but because I always do. It always ends in the orange room. Part 6. The chair welcomed me like it had been waiting. Not a sound escaped as the straps rose on their own, winding gently over my arms and ankles. No resistance, no force, just ritual. Each buckle clicked into place with surgical precision, like I had been here 1,000 times, and I could feel the shape of my own fear pressed into the cushion from every version of myself that had sat here before. Across from me, a screen flickered into life. Static first, then the blur of color, and then a video. It was me, sitting in the same chair, but filmed from a strange angle, slightly too high, like a surveillance camera. The other me stared ahead.com. As something off-screen whispered, "Begin treatment." The lights dimmed. The screen cut to a new image, a memory mine playing like a dream I couldn't wake from. I was in a kitchen, my mother's rain outside. I was younger, maybe 16. She stood at the sink, humming a song that didn't exist. The table was covered in newspaper clippings, all blunt, all wet. Then she turned around. Her eyes were missing, not gouged, not bleeding, just gone. Smooth skin in their place, stretched tight like modeling clay. She opened her mouth and my own voice came out. "You locked me in. You said you'd come back." I thrashed, but the straps didn't budge. The chair was part of the room now, fused to the orange glow pulsing from every direction. My breath quickened. The screen changed again, a hallway. The one with the mirrors. I watched myself stop at each reflection, watched how each version of me smiled differently. But this time, in the recording, I didn't turn away from the final mirror. I stepped into it. The moment my reflection vanished, the real screen crackled violently and shorted out. Sparks flew, then silence. Then a sound behind me, a wet, organic slither. I couldn't turn to see, but I knew it had followed me, the thing with my face. Only now, it didn't need to wear it anymore. It stood behind the chair, breathing with a wheeze that sounded more like air escaping a grave. "You remember now," it said. "That's enough. This time you stay." The straps tightened, not just around my limbs, around my thoughts, around everything I ever believed about choice, or guilt, or identity. It was trying to fold me into the room, to seal me in like insulation inside walls. I closed my eyes, and that's when I saw the basement again. The real one. Stone walls, wood beams, a door painted the same hideous shade of orange, pulsing even then. I stood there, trembling, holding a key and a roll of duct tape, whispering promises to whatever cried on the other side. "I'll fix this," I said, and I locked it, and I left and I forgot. The chair began to hum, low at first, then louder. The walls vibrated in sync. My teeth buzzed in this. The floor beneath the chair cracked like ice under strain, and through that crack I saw it outside. Not a place, not exactly, but another room. A place untouched by the loop. A memory unclaimed. The only way out. I had to remember it fully. The one thing I'd never let myself face. The truth. So I spoke to the thing behind me, to the room, to myself. "I didn't just lock you in," I said. "I made you." The humming stopped, Everything froze. The orange glow dimmed like a dying fire. Then the voice spoke again, but this time from inside me. Then you know how to end it. And the chair vanished. The room fell away, and I was standing in front of the orange door again, holding the key. No voices, no loops, just silence. It was time, but I knew this. Once I turned the key, I wouldn't come back. This was the end. It always ends in the orange room. Part 7, the key was warm in my hand, pulsing like a second heartbeat. Its teeth were worn smooth, but I knew it would fit the lock. It always had. The orange door loomed before me, not glowing now, but breathing. Every inhale of that door felt like a whisper brushing against my thoughts, searching for doubt. Its paint blistered, ran like blood in reverse, dripping upward, toward the ceiling. I stepped forward. The silence behind me was alive with tension, as if the room, the house, the thing that had worn my face for so long, waited to see what I'd do. My fingers brushed the lock. The key slipped in without resistance, and that's when the door spoke. Not in words, not this time. It sang a low, harmonic hum, vibrating from deep inside the wood, like a choir buried in concrete. It flooded my chest, rattled my spine, and carried with it visions I couldn't block. The first time I found the door, deep in the crawl space of my grandfather's house, the ritual book, pages missing, pages written in my handwriting before I had ever seen them. My voice chanting, my hand drawing the sigil, a face watching from the other side of the glass, a promise made. I won't forget, I had said, but I had. The hum grew louder. A deep orange light bled from beneath the frame, casting long shadows that danced in unnatural rhythms. I heard footsteps behind me, not running, not walking, but dragging. And the smell, burnt paper and old milk. The thing with my face was coming. Slow, patient, because it knew what I didn't want to admit. If I turned the key and opened the door, I wasn't going to lock anything inside. I was going to lock myself in. The whole house was just a maze of grief and memory and cowardice. And at the center, the orange room, the original sin. I looked back once. The hallway was collapsing behind me, folding inward like a dying lung. The walls peeled back, revealing layers of insulation, wire, and veins. Veins, pulsing, twitching, alive. The thing stepped out. It had stopped mimicking my shape. Now it was just raw, like something flayed, unfinished. Its mouth opened horizontally, no teeth, just rows of small, blinking eyes inside the gums. You can stay, it said, and it meant it, not with malice, not with rage, but with the calm of someone who's always known how this ends. You'll forget again, it whispered. We always do, but not this time. I turned the key. The lock clicked once, deep and final. The kind of sound you feel in your soul. The door swung open, not violently, not theatrically, just wide enough. Inside was darkness, not blackness, something deeper, a space where even memory unraveled, where names had no meaning, where the versions of me I had seen, had feared, had run from, all drifted like debris. This was where the room had come from. The source. The thing behind the door wasn't a demon, or a ghost, or even a creature. It was the memory I buried, the thing I chose to forget to keep surviving. The thing I made a room for. I took a step in. The key twisted in the lock on its own and fell with a clatter. The door began to shut, and in the last second, I saw the thing in the hallway. It didn't scream, it just smiled, because it knew there's always another door. It always ends in the orange room. Part 8, the door closed behind me. No sound, no lock, just a soft, final click of memory sealing itself. Inside, the dark wasn't absence, it was presence. The kind of dark that feels like hands resting gently on your face. The kind that knows your name even if you've forgotten it. And I had everything. There was no chair here, no mirrors, no dripping ceilings or voice in the walls. Just me and the memory. It began to rise. Not shown, not played like a movie, but relived, bone deep, unavoidable. It hit me not as a vision, but a sensation. Cold linoleum, cheap fluorescent light, a child's sob echoing in the corner of a basement. My brother Ely, 7 years old, small shaken, hiding in a corner of the basement because I'd told him it was a game. Told him he had to stay quiet. Told him the thing upstairs would find us if he moved. And then I locked the door, because I had to. Because something was wrong with me, or with the world, or maybe just with him. I had been 30. I hadn't understood the whispers in my head, the rules of the game I thought I was playing, the sigils I scrawled on the basement walls, like art projects gone wrong. I thought I was saving him. That's what the voice told me back then. The voice that came through the orange door when I first painted it. The voice that wasn't mine, but used my mouth when I was alone. You'll understand when you're older, it had said. But I never got older. Not really. Because I never left this room. Not completely. I left a shell. A body that moved through years. That built new rooms. That forgot. Again and again. But I stayed in this loop, this pocket. This prison made from guilt and ritual and rot. I dropped to my knees. The floor of the room pulsed beneath me. Not warm. not cold, just there like muscle under skin. And then I saw it. Not the boy. Not Eli. The version of myself who never came back to unlock the door. He sat in the center of the room, eyes stitched shut with fine black thread, lips trembling, his hands clutched a drawing. A stick figure, two people. One bigger, one small, smiling. A house in the background, an orange square for a door. I reached out, but he flinched, and the walls around us shook, as if even this place couldn't bear what came next. Because here was the truth. There never was a creature in the orange room. No monster behind the door. Just a child. Abandoned, forgotten, sealed in by a terrified older brother who couldn't face what he'd done. The orange room was never a haunting. It was a scar, a place I carved into memory so I wouldn't have to feel. I sat beside him. He didn't look at me, he didn't have to, I knew what he needed. Not a key, not forgiveness, just for someone to stay, so I did. And outside, the rooms began to crumble. The mirror hallway shattered, shards falling like snow into nothing. The hospital twisted inward like a dying flower. The thing with my face, the one that had chased me, fed on my forgetting. It howled once, then fell silent, because it couldn't survive in truth, only in loops. And now, the loop was broken. I looked at the boy again. I didn't know if he was still Eli, or me, or both, but it didn't matter. I took his hand, and the orange light, for the first time, felt warm. Not burning, not pulsing, just sunrise. And it always ends here. But this time, maybe it doesn't start again. Maybe the door stays shut, maybe I do, too.